Hello, this is Craig, and this is a podcast audio on how to observe. So, this discussion is basically we observe all the time, but we're not looking deeply um, with the reality of what we're seeing. We tend to add thought to our observation. So, this podcast is about having an awareness of looking at things without thought. Sound simple, but it really isn't. So you could think of any object, like we can think of a tree, for example. And when you look at a tree, often our mind comes in and says the word tree. Oh, that's a tree. We're looking at a tree, but we're adding a label to it. Um, in that way, we're not truly with the tree. There's part of us have gone into the past in our mind, and we've gone through our knowledge and found the word tree. But you can look at things without labeling them, and it's a good practice to look at a tree, for example, and see if you can just look without adding the label tree. Um, you could look even deeper and really take your time to look at a tree. You can look at the different aspects of it. There's colours, there's leaves, there's bark, there's all sorts of things in a tree. Just taking that time to sort of soften your focus and just observe. Now, if you can do it with objects, just by looking at them without labels, then you can also do this with your body and your emotions. So, with your body, for example, if there's aches or pains or symptoms arising from an illness, we can use awareness to observe these things without entering our mind that's causing them to have different qualities. So you could be looking at a headache, for example, but instead of your mind interpreting the headache as a problem, or it's wrong, or this shouldn't be, or I don't want one, or whatever your opinioning is about the headache, you simply sit and observe the feeling of the headache. So this is observation. You're noticing that there's an achiness in your temple, perhaps, or in the top of your head, or at the side. And you're just observing. You're having a moment to just be with the body, just having an awareness. And you can notice as you observe that feelings change and shift as you watch. Very, very interesting. Things seem to move and flow as you watch. So awareness begins to notice there's a movement, there's a change in how your body responds in each moment. There could be a movement of achiness or pain. Nothing really stays the same. So in this way you can observe your body doing what it needs to do and not adding any thought, any judgment, any comment or criticism to what your body is doing. You're simply observing what is. Similarly, with emotions, if you feel edgy or anxious or nervous or frustrated or disappointed or angry, whatever emotion that you've labeled, see if you can remove the label and just be with the feeling of that emotion. You may find that, again, there's a movement, a shift, and there's a movement in different parts of your body as well. It's very, very interesting when you start to observe in this way. What maybe begins in your tummy moves up to your arms or your legs, can go through your body. But by simply watching the emotion arise in the moment and noticing the flow and movement of it, often after a minute or two, the feeling eases. It's also useful to follow your breath in these observations. The breath is a way of not entering your mind that judges or opinions about what you're feeling. Instead, just being with the reality of the moment. And breath is one wonderful way of connecting to the present moment, because in this moment there is an in-breath or an out-breath. So, as well as emotions and body and objects, what else can we observe? Well, we can observe our words, our thoughts. So, whenever you enter your mind and judge or look at something, you're potentially adding a layer of thought to it. So whether that's a self beating yourself up thing, like I shouldn't be doing this, or I wish I was doing that, or why am I procrastinating over this, or I wish I was stronger, fitter, healthier. All of these things are thoughts. So if you observe thought just like you would a feeling, again, not adding any label to it, there is just awareness of the thought. And as you watch, just the same as your feelings, things arrive and then they disappear. So not following a thought or believing a thought at face value will allow it to pass by, and then you are still staying in your calm, centered awareness. The longer you're in your calm, centered awareness, there is a peaceful calm, your natural state is emerging. Awareness, pure consciousness, without thought of past or future. And you can look at your thoughts as simply movements in time going into the past or the future. Every single thought you have is related to potentially something you've already seen, so a past memory, or it's imagining possibilities that haven't yet arisen, imagination of the future. So in this way, your thoughts aren't the current reality of now, and therefore are not to be believed at face value. They can be challenged somewhat, and we can look at our words and see deeply whether we're in the past or in the future. So an example of this is if you say to yourself, oh, what's the point? What's the point of life? Now, if you observe deeply that thought, you'll notice that the thought is based on the past, because you're drawing in all the difficulty and unpleasantness of the past to come to the conclusion of what is the point. And similarly, you might be looking forward into the future and thinking that it's not going to be any better than it has been, that things are just in despair all the time. And these are all thoughts about a potential future that has not yet arrived. So the words, what is the point, are solely based on past and future, not now, not here, not reality. and therefore you can discard them in some way. You can allow them to come and go, but not invest in that thought. And by not investing in that thought, you stay peaceful, calm, centered, grounded, aware. You're in awareness. And so, in this way, we can observe life. We can observe our daily routines, our habits, our thoughts, our movement into past and future, into time, and we can see it and we can go, we're not now, we're not present, we're not here, we're thinking, and our thoughts contain judgment, opinion, perception, not necessarily the truth or the reality of the moment, but our interpretation of that. And if we can reduce those commentaries, we become more peaceful, calm, healthier. Everything seems to start to work out for you, as opposed to you thinking that things aren't going well or are. We're just coming away from our thinking and into our being. So your being is very, very important, because it grounds you to the moment of what is the truth, the actuality of what is going on, not what you're interpreting as going on. And that's very, very different. So mind is one level that you can interpret life, but there's also awareness, and awareness can be with life. And that's just allowing and surrendering to the flow of each moment. Wherever you are is where you are, and whatever you're up to is whatever you're up to. But if you observe it, if things are causing a problem, then stop to observe and look deeply. And this needs space. This needs sitting, or a moment of mindfulness where you pause what you're doing, drop your technology or whatever it is that you're engaged with, because that's more thinking. Come away from doing and into your being. A few minutes is very, very useful, and it's something that you can do all the time. Whenever you're starting to lose that centeredness, you notice it. Deep observation, you understand the difference between being centered and being not centered. It's quite obvious when you start to look deeply. So if there's any uncomfortableness, any emotion, then emotion is a signal to come back to the present moment. If you're overthinking, it's a signal to come back to the present moment. If you're in the past and future, it's an observation to come back to the present moment. Everything is about coming back to the present moment. And when you're in the present moment, there is, as I say, peace, calm, no problems. Nothing really is happening. There is just the feeling of now. And as you observe a tree, if you're out walking, you will get to that moment, and you will observe in that moment of looking at the tree, you are no longer worried or in problems. You are just with the tree. You are one with the tree. And this oneness, this emptiness, removes the ego, removes the person that says, I have difficulty, I have problems, I don't know what to do, I must solve. It removes the I. And when you remove the I, there is just being. There is just oneness. And oneness can give you trust, wisdom, insight. You'll also begin to see synchronicities. Things will happen in your life magically. None of these things you need to think about. everything will be guided towards you, everything that you need. So it's trusting that process and allowing that process in and noticing how we observe things. So take the time to observe and look deeply at everything that you see without comment. And if you can do that, then you are naturally, mindfully present, conscious, awake, in awareness, your natural state. So, thank you for listening. I hope this has been useful, and have a good rest of your day. Bye just now.